Alright, we need to have a little chat about an artist's voice, because only by understanding what an artist's voice is and why it is important can we begin to understand why this movie fails so completely. And believe me when I tell you, it gives me absolutely no joy to say that. Because I'm a theater person. I'm educated in the theater. I work in the theater. I direct theater. I teach theater. And Noel Coward is one of the pillars of that profession. His work is some of the best work out there, and Blithe Spirit is regarded as his best play. And I can't disagree with that. I love the original Blithe Spirit. And when I heard that they were doing this film, I was very excited. I wanted to see what new actors were going to do with it. And naturally, of course, we all know what happened to 2020 at the movies. And the film kind of fluttered out of my and a lot of people's minds until it finally popped up as finally being released to DirecTV and I think maybe a couple streaming services here and there. I don't know if they've released it to the theaters. So I was very excited, and I sat down to watch it and was very, very quickly tuned into the fact that I was not watching a modern production of Noel Coward's Blithe Spirit. That I was watching a rewritten, updated version of Noel Coward's Blithe Spirit. And as the film went on, this became even more painfully obvious the longer the film went. This film is only an hour and 39 minutes, but it felt like an eternity. I am highly disappointed in this movie. And I'm highly disappointed in just everything that went into the making of this movie, because the answer to why this movie is terrible is the fact that it is not Noel Coward's work. Now, I understand that a direct page-to-screen adaptation of a play is difficult at best. They're two separate mediums, and sometimes alterations have to be made. That's just the way it is. Even something like The Odd Couple, the classic Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon film, added a few minor lines here and there to get Felix and Oscar out of the house, to go to another location. But the majority of the script is still Neil Simon's play. A few things were added here and there to make it more cinematic, but it's still Neil Simon's work. It's still his words. They didn't rewrite The Odd Couple. They didn't do that until the TV show came along. This film, and I will acknowledge it has been a little while since I've read Blithe Spirit, but this film pretty much completely rewrites Noel Coward's script. Now, taking into account that that is a profoundly stupid thing to do, and in theatrical circles can be considered downright blasphemous, the rewriting of it is the problem. And this brings us back to my original statement about an author's voice, or an artist's voice. It's not just an author. Anyone who is engaged in any kind of creative endeavor, and I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's writing, if it's directing, if it's singing, if it's composing. if it's tap dancing, if it's macrame, quilt making, knitting, anything that requires any kind of creative strain on the creator's part requires the creator, the artist, to have a voice, to have a style, to have a signature that is uniquely theirs, that makes the work theirs. This is something I talk to my directing class a lot about. What is your style? What defines your work? What are the things that make a work uniquely yours? What are the things that make these reviews uniquely mine? I have a creative voice. When I'm writing a play, when I'm directing a play, when I was acting in a play, when I'm doing these reviews, it may not be a creative voice that is successful. It may not be a creative voice that people like, but it's a voice that is uniquely mine. And if you take my creative voice out of the work, it's just words. Okay? What makes a work unique, what makes a work stand out is not just the words on the page. What makes Shakespeare's work stand out is not just the words on the page. A lot of people were writing plays back then. Why are his unique? Because there is a voice, because there is a message, there is a theme, there is something that is the author's in the work. This is why so many revamps, reimaginings, redos, remakes, re-whatevers, this is why so many of them fail. Because when you take the work away from the voice that created it, you lose part of the integrity. It's like removing a support beam from a structure because it makes it more aesthetically pleasing. Yeah, but it doesn't hold the weight. I say this a lot in a lot of my reviews, things like the Predator movies, that those were a product of their specific time and place. And that's why there haven't been any good Predator films since the original, and some would say the second. Because it was a product of its time. And without that energy, without that voice of the decade in which it was born, it doesn't hold up. Okay? This is obviously not true of everything, but it's true of a lot of things. So, if you take the Noel Coward out of a Noel Coward play, it is left lifeless. And that is what has happened here. Noel Coward's work is not just the plots. It is the language. It is the rhythm. It is the musical aspect of the characters. It's the wit. It's the charm. Something that is uniquely his. And if you're not doing that, then what you have is what we get, this lump of stuff vaguely inspired by Noel Coward, vaguely kind of following the plot, but twisting it and turning it and moving it all around to come up with this thing, this dull, lifeless, uninspired thing. I don't even know, I can't even call it a mess, because it's not a mess. It's very clear. It runs a clear path. You know, this isn't a hodgepodge. This was very deliberate. And unfortunately, it's very deliberate in its wackiness, or not as wackiness, in its badness. You know that every creative voice involved in this was just patting themselves on the back the entire time at how clever they were. At how, oh, look, we've updated this dreary old piece, or we've done an homage to it. You haven't. You've butchered it. My question is, if you're gonna do a movie version of Blithe's Spirit, Why not use the script for Blithe Spirit? And if you're going to, again, I understand that, again, taking something from stage to screen is a difficult transition. You have to change things up because not everything translates. Look at the film version of the musical version of The Producers. That's shot like a stage version and it doesn't work. So I get that. So I get that tweaks need to be made. But you didn't have to do the hatchet job on it. And the question I really have is, for what purpose? Why was the script so heinously ripped apart and super glued back together? What was the purpose? Why did you do this? Because it can't just be to translate it to the screen. It would have translated fine. But with this complete hatchet job, it must have been for some bizarre reason to make it more modern, to bring it into the modern day, or some, your common, tagline bullshit reasons for why we do things like this. But here's the real question. If that is why they did this, if that is why they ripped this thing apart and glued it back together, why did they still set it in the time and place Noel Coward said it? If you want to modernize this, if you want to redo Blithe Spirit for a modern audience, then why not fucking modernize it? Why not set it in a modern time and place? Why not set it in modern day England? Why not switch the genders so maybe it's a wife whose first husband passed away, and she got remarried, and now the ghost of the first husband comes back, and now she's got two different types of men trapping her. Think of the things you could say about, a woman, the evolving place of a woman in society or within the marriage construct. You could actually say something with that. Hell, how about this? What if it was a same-sex couple? You could actually say something. Or what if it was a bisexual relationship wherein you now have a person who's got two spouses, one dead, one alive, of two different genders? There's so much you could do and say with the piece like that. That's a reason to modernize. That's a reason to rewrite the script. If they had done that, I would have been a little more forgiving, because those are actually interesting ideas that take the core concept of this and modernize it. Do something new. Okay, I can get behind that. Cool. They didn't do that. It's the exact same story, but with a lot of bullshit that complicates things and just makes the entire work fall apart. This whole subplot of plagiarism, and again, they butcher the ending. For what? For what purpose? None of it hangs together. The only reason I can think that they did some of this is to expand Judi Dench's role, because the fortune teller, as I recall, is just kind of in and out of the play. She's there at the very beginning, and she comes in again towards the end. But she's not a huge role. So the only reason I can think they did this is because they had Judi Dench, and they wanted to give Judi Dench a bigger role. They wanted to flush out her character. I don't see why they needed to do that. You could have just, having them guest star Judi Dench is just as good as having her in the whole movie. She gets paid the same. I don't understand this. The only thing I can say about this movie, and the only thing I'm wrapping up here, there's not a lot to talk about because I'm just kind of infuriated by this. The only reason when I give the final grade that the grade is not going to be, let's just skip to the chase. Let's just skip to the chase here. Final grade for this one. Final grade for this one is a C-. A C-. It is so close to a D. The only thing that's keeping it above that D level is the cast is actually very good. All right. Dan Stevenson, Dalton Abbey is very good as Charles. Ilsa Fisher is very charming and very good. I actually really like Ilsa Fisher as an actor. And she's one of those actors that has stayed kind of in that mid-range for a lot of her career. That's not a bad thing. That's not a criticism. It's just kind of a statement. The movies she does, she seems very comfortable with, and she does excellent work in. But I think she's a very good actor, and I kind of wish she'd get that star turn, that picture that really wakes people up to how much of a talent she is. But by that same token, that's what I said about Ryan Reynolds for years, and now he's fucking everywhere and annoying as shit. So maybe I should just keep my mouth shut. Judi Dench is, of course, Judi Dench, so you can't really find a lot of fault with her. She does a great job. So the cast is actually quite good. The weak spot in this is Leslie Mann as Elvira, the first wife. I don't know what's going on with her, but she is not connecting. I don't know if it's the way they rewrote the character or if it's just her performance, but it's not working for me at all. So she is a weak spot in the cast. But, the majority of the cast does a very, very good job. So much so that, I wouldn't mind seeing them in a production of Blithe Spirit. I wouldn't mind that in the slightest. So their work is the only reason this thing doesn't plummet to the bottom of the barrel to the D's and F's file. This is a waste of time, folks. It is a waste of time. And any theater people, because I know a bunch of theater folk were very excited about this film. Folks, this isn't the beloved play that you've read or been in or whatever. It's not it. Okay? So I would say just skip this one wholesale and move on, because you are not going to be happy with what you find. All right? Believe me on that. So there you have it. That is my review of Blithe Spirit. Boy, it's bad enough, and I've said this on other reviews, it's bad enough that 2020 closed all the theaters and all these movies were just kind of tossed into the wind. It's bad enough that happened, but they couldn't have even given us decent movies when they finally came out. They all have to be this level of disappointing. Oh, madon. So yeah. But we're going to keep trying. We're going to keep plugging away. Somewhere there has to be a good movie. Somewhere there has to be a bright spot. There just has to be. There's a place for us. Anywho, so we're going to keep looking. We're going to keep finding, and we'll see what's out there. So thanks for coming along as I rant my way through another drive. And please join us next time. And as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.